Hello, and welcome to Markets Insight. I am Lavina Emma. The cryptocurrency market continues to evolve and regulators are scrambling to keep up with the pace. In Nigeria, the Apex Bank, Central Bank of Nigeria, gave out some directives to cryptocurrency operators to regulate the sector. The central bank released initial guidelines for banks opening cryptocurrency accounts, but the ban remains on banks' ability to trade or hold virtual assets within their own portfolios. Now, what this means is that banks can decide that they want to trade cryptocurrency when they open these cryptocurrency accounts, or they can just indicate it in their portfolios. But the CBN has not given that directive to banks yet. Now, the guidelines include stringent anti-money laundering, AML, know your customer, KYC. In addition, banks are also required to set what is described as prudent transaction limits and not allow cash withdrawals from crypto accounts. Now, this was to forestall issues of money laundering, terrorism, and terrorism financing that the crypto sector is plagued with. Now, in another country in Asia, Singapore to be precise, has expanded its crypto rules to encompass custody and payments. So on today's show, we will explore the implications for businesses and investors and what these changes mean for the future of cryptocurrency adoption. My guest this morning is Professor Olaleye Awe. He is a serial entrepreneur with a vast experience in fintech. He is also a cryptocurrency enthusiast, trader and investor, and he is the founder of Alpha Training Lab, Nigeria's foremost cryptocurrency trading community. His community, Alpha Training Lab, is passionate about the promotion and adoption of cryptocurrencies and the blockchain, as well as facilitating the growth of legitimate crypto trading activities in Nigeria. The community was also voted as the best crypto community in Africa in 2023 at the Africa Crypto Giants Awards. So welcome to Market Insight, Professor Olaleye Awe.
Oh, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Professor.
Good morning. Can you hear me, please?
Okay. So well, we're happy to have you on the show this morning. Thank you for joining us this morning. And when I was reading about your profile, I saw that you got an award from the Africa Cryptocurrency Awards. So can you tell me what that is about for just a few seconds?
Oh, okay. So last year, the Africa Crypto Giants made awards for, I think it was the first edition to reward or recognize crypto people all over Africa, communities and individuals that are doing the great job of advancing crypto adoption in Africa. And our community Alpha Training Lab was awarded as the best crypto community in Africa. And we've been doing our bit to educate and expand the crypto adoption landscape in Nigeria, specifically, and Africa at large.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm sure that was quite a big milestone for your company. Okay, so we're discussing cryptocurrency regulation and how I would say it's spreading all over the world. More and more countries want to regulate this Bitcoin. More people want to know, even though it's a digital currency, but there should be some rules as to how it operates. As you know, in Nigeria, we haven't started trading with cryptocurrency, but the practice is being obtained in other countries of the world. So how, like I mentioned Singapore, how their own financial regulatory bodies, they're also trying to put in some measures to regulate cryptocurrency trading. This is also to protect consumers in their country. So now, how will this upcoming cryptocurrency regulations impact the volatility of the crypto market?
Okay, I think the thing we understand about the growing concerns of governments all over the world about the impact that crypto could have on the economies of the world. And we've seen different countries come up with different rules around the industry in their own domain. South Korea, for example, now have, elaborate crypto regulations, and Nigeria is also coming up with a few of those as well, because I think some weeks ago the SEC released a few rules, in tandem with what the CBN was doing some weeks ago as well. And I think for me personally, regulation is a welcome development. It is necessary to have some sort of rules that guide how the industry operates. Because one thing is, I've been in the crypto industry since 2016, and there's always been concern about bad players. But the truth is that there are bad players in every industry, not just in crypto. And I think data has shown that the bad actors have very small piece of the crypto industry, less than 3%. And so that shows that the crypto industry, to a large extent, have tried to self-regulate in a bid to be prepared ahead of when governments begin to, come into cognizance of what rules and what things are supposed to do. We'll recall that some years ago, there's been a push for ETFs, Bitcoin and other ETFs in the US that has been repeatedly rejected until this year. And, the acceptance of ETFs by the US is the first signal that the world governments are beginning to recognize that this industry has come to stay. And, and that's a very big win for the crypto industry. And since the ETF has been approved, there's been a lot of new money flowing into crypto, like we've seen in the past few weeks. We've seen how it's impacted on price as well. And I think regulation just gives the signal that there's a recognition that this industry is, functional and should be paid attention to. And I think it's a welcome development. Everybody should be excited that some form of rules are being brought in to create a level playing field for everybody that is involved in crypto industry. I'm sure a few people who have had the bad side of crypto, either you've gotten into a token that's gotten robbed, or you've got your crypto stolen from your wallet for whatever reasons, having some more regulation coming can definitely protect, people from some of those things, even though, of course, you expect that some of those things will continue to happen, given the fact that, human beings will be human beings, But I think regulation in general is a good thing. And it also helps that most governments are not rushing into it. They're giving it time to understand what the innovation is about before then deciding what and what can be done. So it's a good thing, and I welcome it wholeheartedly.
Yes, I do agree with you on this one, Professor Awe. Yes, now I want to know, what are the potential benefits and drawbacks of increased government oversight for cryptocurrencies? Because this means that more governments, for example, let's take Nigeria now. This also means that apart from the government's financial regulatory bodies like the Central Bank of Nigeria, the Securities and Exchange Commissions, focusing more on what this digital currency entails, like how trading with it operates, even though they've placed a ban on banks trading directly with cryptocurrency. I just want to know, what are the potential benefits and drawbacks of increased government oversight on cryptocurrencies?
Okay, so just to be honest, looking at the main reason why crypto came to exist in the first place, the idea of crypto in general is to return power to the people. Literally allow people to determine what is valuable and what is not. And I think that to an extent is being achieved. But because there is room for, if it's not regulated, there's a high chance that there will be abuse and, people can turn it upside down. And if you look at the crypto industry in general, the more governments ask questions around things like money laundering, terrorist financing, there's always the fear of the fact that people could evade taxes easily with crypto. But one thing that, from my experience, I've seen is that crypto transactions are not that anonymous after all. It's easy to trace from source to destination, so it's not really the picture that was painted to a lot of people that, oh, this thing is anonymous, this thing cannot be traced, that's not essentially true. Of course, there are a few crypto tokens that, are focused on privacy and have some of those features, but they're not mainstream. Bitcoin, for example, is easily traceable. You can trace transactions from end to end. And that means that, when governments begin to become more involved, now remember that Bitcoin is a permissionless system, which means you don't need a central bank or one entity to decide the rules. Like in Nigeria, for example, Naira is literally managed by the central bank. So the central bank determines the value. If, for example, the Naira is too strong, the central bank could make certain policies that, adjust the value and, stuff like that. And I think with cryptocurrency, the idea is to return that decision to the hands of the the general public, not just the central bank deciding whether I'm richer or poorer. But the downside is that it could also create some certain. So, for example, when Bitcoin was created, there was at that time not many other cryptocurrencies. But since that time, we now have more than 5,000 cryptocurrencies, promising to do many different things. And the problem with that is that anybody can wake up tomorrow, create a token, push for it to be listed on an exchange, and then literally create money from thin air. And that's why in crypto, you have a lot of airdrops, people, giving tokens for free that end up being, more valuable than a lot of people's incomes, And what this means is that people can literally create money from thin air. And that's a risk in itself, because if I can create my own money, why do I need the Naira or the dollar, for example? So it means that I could literally dilute the world economic system. And that is where the risk is. And that's why, it's important for governments to become involved in how these things are done so that people don't just wake up and decide they want to topple government, for example, create their own tokens and, become richer than the government and then, create chaos. So it's important to see that first, the fact that government is not outrightly coming to say, okay, this thing is trash, we want to ban it or we want to discard it, is good news, because it means that the government recognizes that there is value in what this industry provides. And that's one of the reasons why I think in the last few months we've had like a lot of boom in the crypto market, because with the approval of the ETF, for example, it's a sign that governments are beginning to realize that this innovation could be useful for the general public, and the innovation should be encouraged. And that for me is one of the major advantages, because it gives credence to the crypto industry. It gives some form of push for some of the work that we have been doing in trying to educate people to understand that crypto is not a Ponzi, even though many of us were introduced to crypto through Ponzi schemes, but eventually we came to understand what the technology is about and what it can do and what advantages it could give. Like, for example, one of the first things that fascinated me to crypto was the fact that you could complete transactions, cross-border transactions within an instant, and very cheap. So, for example, you can send value across border within an instant at a very, very, negligible fee. And that means that business can happen at the speed of thought. Business can happen instantaneously anywhere in the world. And that is very, very, I think the first time I encountered Bitcoin, that was the first thing that caught my eye because I realized that this could be huge. And remember that the world is becoming smaller and smaller. We're having, people call it the global village. So it means that there's going to be need to be able to transfer value from one part of the world to another without having those restrictions that could, that the current traditional financial systems have in place. But then that could also expose people to, scammers, um, and other vices that is, of course, present in other industries as well. But the fact that with crypto, things happen like immediately. So if I send money to a bank, for example, and I feel like I've made a mistake or I've sent, sometimes I could reach out to my bank, to place a lien on that value and all of that. But with crypto, once it's gone, good luck getting it back. And so some of these regulations are going to help companies who are developing products for crypto to put in checks and balances to make sure that some of these things are checked. Of course, like you said at the beginning, to protect consumers from the risks that are involved in interacting with crypto. So in essence, I believe that the regulations are going to give more exposure. So more and more people will become aware of crypto. More and more people will become interested. And because government has said, oh, we recognize this thing, there's a high chance that more people will pay attention to it. So that's a good part. And for the other downside, like I said, if the regulations get too stringent, for example, if it begins to take away the essence of the crypto industry, then it's going. So, for example, crypto is supposed to make it possible for anyone in the world to own their own bank in their pockets. So, for example, I don't need to go to any authority. I don't need to go anywhere. I can just download a particular crypto app and have my bank in my pocket. Somebody can send me value from anywhere in the world, and I can easily exchange that for value at any point in time. But the downside of that is that if the regulations that are coming up begins to impinge on that. So for example, in 2021, CBN came out and said that no bank should facilitate any form of crypto transactions. In other words, placing a pseudo ban on crypto in Nigeria. Now, what that did is that it took most of the transactions that would have been visible to these companies and maybe the government and took it into private channels, which means people started to deal with themselves, under the radar. And that means that government is going to lose in a lot of ways. For example, in the past few years, there's been growing crypto tax systems, where governments are beginning to realize that, oh, there's money in this industry, we might as well tax it. And these things are, another way for governments to raise needed finance. So I think in general, regulation is more upside than downside. The only time where I think it might become a problem is if the government regulations begin to take away the essence of what crypto is, which is freedom, of the people to choose, how value is allocated. And I believe that for me, the approach that I see most governments apply gives positive vibes, because many of them are saying, okay, we want to understand what this thing is before we decide how to put rules around it. And that for me is positive. Whether that's going to continue is a different thing entirely. And that is something that I hope will continuously get better with time.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that, Professor Awe. Yes, there were some certain things that you mentioned there. Yes, I remember in 2021, Central Bank of Nigeria introduced some measures to, like you rightfully said, a pseudo ban on cryptocurrency. But in 2024, they actually kind of relaxed a bit on it. They just created a process whereby banks should be able to know the records of customers and other beneficial owners of cryptocurrencies, and also keep records of investigations or things that have to do with unusual transactions regarding cryptocurrency. Now, the reason I mentioned this, I don't know if you can remember a few years ago when a popular social media user who was arrested by the American FBI in a foreign country, and he also had some cryptocurrency wallets, and till today some of those wallets are still locked because of the privacy regarding crypto usage, actually. And apart from this, cryptocurrency, people who use this cryptocurrency, they've been accused of dealing with, okay, the popular term out there, people who are Yahoo boys have been using this as a means to move funds from one country to another because it's online, it's a digital currency. So these are the issues that most governments have with this, especially our own governments who are trying to regulate this industry, this digital currency right now. So there's still some form of anonymity with cryptocurrency. So what are your thoughts on this, Professor Awe?
Okay, so from the beginning, I've always been of the opinion that government needs to encourage more and more people to trade on regulated platforms. Yes, because whatever you're doing on a regulated platform, there's visibility. Government can easily request for certain information, request for certain, data to see if there's some sort of foul play. And I mentioned before that there's that, of course, I believe that in every industry, whether it's oil and gas, whether it is real estate, there are always those who are there to pervert the system, who are using the system for their own nefarious purposes. And that is normal in every industry. But the data shows that the total part of the crypto industry that has been involved in things like money laundering, terrorist financing, and all those, negative things that are usually allocated to crypto is just less than 3%. Now, what that means is the majority of these things that are still happening is happening with, the fiat currency that are already regulated by the government. So what does that tell us? It tells you that government regulation is not always a guarantee that the right thing will be done, because even that can be evaded, by a lot of people. I think the thing that I personally see as the dangers of, not doing anything or not regulating the crypto industry at all is the fact that people can, create value out of thin air. In other words, people can become their own central banks. They can wake up tomorrow and create a token and put it out there, and it gains value, and that's money created out of nothing. And that means that a lot of the control that the central banks have, to control the economy and all of that is going to be lost. And so that is why I believe that people issuing new currencies, for example, that should be regulated. There should be some form of visibility into what is happening there. If not, of course, there's going to be a lot of chaos down the line. And I think that should be the major focus of government, really. If you want to tell me that money laundering and all of that is the issue, How come there is nobody catching those moving money with naira or dollars all the years? In fact, if you see the values, being laundered with our fiat currencies, they're huge compared to what crypto is able to do. Because crypto industry is still, to a large extent, still very small, right? I think at the moment, the total market cap is still under about 2 point something trillion dollars. And this was a lot lower several years ago, right? But you have fiat in circulation that is multiple magnitudes of that amount, which means that a lot of the activities that are going on still go on in the traditional banking system. And this is provable with data. But the point here is that governments should, so talking about what the CBN did in this year when they backtracked on their 2021 circular, if you look at the fine prints, what they're saying is they want the major players to register with the SEC and follow certain rules. And I looked at what the SEC released as the rules for that. And when you look at many of the line items, they're almost impossible for individuals or little group of individuals to meet some of those things, which therefore means that at the end of the day, you might have banks, for example, coming into that industry to do what the CBN has said they should not do. And that for me is problematic because one of the major advantages crypto has given to individuals around the world is the autonomy that you can take charge of your finances. You can determine how you save, how you keep your value, and all of those things, and how you exchange it as well, and that for me is the essence of crypto. Once you take that essence away from the crypto industry, you're destroying it in essence. And that's why I believe the government should focus more on issuers of new tokens, people who are creating new tokens for whatever purposes. That should be regulated. There should be insight into what they're doing, why they're doing it. And of course, there should be some form of audit system around that. But for most individuals, many people are just consumers. So more or less like they're just buying and selling or exchanging value of these cryptocurrencies. They really don't have the um, powers to create. Of course, anybody can create new tokens, but if there's laws or regulations around that process, then of course, you know that if you're doing that without going through due process, you're breaking the law, and whatever you get, you will take. So for me, I think the government should be more concerned about, and that is the essence of all the consultations that we're trying to do to make government see that look, the where the problem is the more harsh government is towards cryptocurrency, the more they push the activities into the shadows. And when you do that, you take away visibility. You're not going to see what's going on anymore. And that makes it difficult to regulate because if you don't see what's going on, how do you regulate it? How do you say, oh, you've broken these rules or you've done XYZ? Like, for example, in the US, there are strict rules as to how much value you can exchange every month, and this puts, some form of control on how money flows because people will not just move money anyhow or buy cryptocurrency beyond their means. There's systems in place that ensures that doesn't happen. And of course, that's why the banking industry has a major role to play because you cannot get crypto converted to fiat and vice versa without going through the banking system. So the banks see everything that is going on, really. If somebody comes with $1 million of Bitcoin and converts it to Naira, the bank sees that transaction in one way or the other. But what are the reporting rules? What are the things that are put in place to ensure that there is visibility into what is going on? And that is where the regulatory drive should be, especially for Nigeria. I understand other major countries, like for example, in Europe, there's a new rule that says that you cannot transfer more than $1,000 worth of crypto without having to provide the information of the sender and the receiver. So that for me means that they want to see what is going on. But in Nigeria, we are focusing on the wrong side of the chain. And that might mean that we're going to miss out on a lot of, the benefits that regulation is supposed to bring. For example, if you look at Venezuela, when Venezuela came out and decided to ban crypto, most of the crypto activities went under the shadows. And in fact, Venezuela became one of the biggest crypto by volume, crypto consumers by volume. So it means that government saying, oh, we're banning this thing, and then, their volumes grew. What happened? Government couldn't see what's going on anymore because you have said you are no longer interested in this thing. So the people decided to find alternative channels. Remember that with crypto, you can change value with anybody from anywhere at any time, almost instantaneously. So that means that if the government is not very smart about the rules that they put in play, they're going to completely miss out on the control that they're trying to have on that part.
Okay, thank you for that, Professor Awe. Yes, I understand what you are saying. And you also mentioned that in the past, you could see some people carrying out nefarious activities using our legal tender. Yes, we have seen all these things take place. But in a country like Nigeria, cryptocurrency and other bitcoins are mostly used for savings and investments purpose, actually, since you can't buy and sell with them, you can't carry out any transaction with them as opposed to what happens in other countries. So you would actually agree with me that it's more, this cryptocurrency trading is more suitable for illegal activities. It's more attractive for people who want to carry out illegal activities because you can't really purchase any physical good with it. You can just, once you have this sufficient money to invest in cryptocurrency and whatever means you got this money, you can actually start transacting, engaging in whatever activities you want to engage with. We've seen these types of things take place in the past. I also mentioned about a certain Nigerian living abroad that was arrested also because his own trading activities were able to be traced by law enforcement agencies from another country, and that was how he was able to get arrested. So, okay, based on that, I also want to know now, so beyond price volatility and what other challenges might cryptocurrency regulations pose for businesses looking to adopt cryptocurrency payments, actually?
Okay, so to answer your question, let me first make this correction. I don't agree that crypto is more suited to, nefarious activities. I believe it is attractive given the fact that there's some layer of obscurity, but I don't agree that because even the data shows that the total volume that is attributable to those kind of activities is almost negligible. So that tells you that most of the transactions that happen with crypto are legit transactions. They are transactions centered around legit interests. Now, in a country like Nigeria, where there are not very clear, or what I call it, boundaries as to how much value an individual can exchange or move around and all of that. Of course, there's some level of risk in that area. But I also believe, like, for example, personally, I've been investing and transacting with cryptocurrency since 2016. I've paid school fees abroad with it. I've bought several things with it, And I think in Nigeria, we are having growing adoption. We are having companies who are creating layers between crypto and everyday life. So, for example, you can use your crypto debit cards to buy things, make withdrawals, in Nigeria now. There are even growing crypto ATMs in Nigeria as well. So there's adoption going on, at a very fast pace where people can spend crypto in real time. You can buy airtime, you can pay bills, you can do all of that, and that for me is where the thrust of the adoption is going, because you need each person to be able to use crypto for whatever purpose that they're, just the way you use your regular fiat. But I believe that crypto will not replace fiat because whether you like it or not, the government needs to have control over something. And the fiat currency is that. But I also believe that crypto creates a layer that allows you to quickly complete, transactions or, transfer value or receive value as the case may be. So for example, some years ago, even recently, it's difficult to transfer to receive value from abroad. So for a lot of people who are doing freelance jobs, working online, many of them are usually paid in cryptocurrencies, because it's easier. I don't need to worry about how you will get your naira or dollar or whatever. I just need to transfer crypto and then you can use your on-ramp solutions within your country to convert it to. And I remember some time ago when I traveled to the UK and I needed some pounds, but I only had crypto on me. I had to look for, local crypto services and converted some crypto to pounds. And that was very easy and fast, even cheaper compared to if I had, gone through the regular this. And I have people who live strictly on crypto. So that should tell you that there's a legal case or legit case for legit use cases for crypto, as it were. But I also believe that with increased government oversight, there's always going to be the what will I call it now? The need to control narrative. So, for example, at the moment, everybody believes that crypto is for criminals. Well, most people believe that. And the criminals that are operating in crypto, they're in the very small minority. So that means that most people are calling the dog a bad name so that they can hang it. And I think that's something that a lot of crypto players need to do to change that narrative. A lot of crypto education needs to be done. And that's some of the work that we're doing in our community to educate people to understand, first and foremost, the technology, what it does, what it can do, what it can be, and what benefit it can bring to the society. I'm one of the people who believe that crypto is created for Africa. And I also very much believe that one of the reasons why Nigeria has not cycled into financial crisis, major one, is because of the vibrant crypto industry, and I believe it can get better if the government will listen to some people who are in the industry who understand some of the flow of these things. And I believe that with time, all these things will, well, with government willingness, because that's something that always has to be put in front. Yeah. So, but for me, I believe that with increased government interest, maybe they're going to listen to some of us, to hear where the focus should be, because then it gives them the advantage that they can preserve the innovation and still derive the benefits that, it brings to the society as well.
Are there concerns that cryptocurrency regulations could stifle innovation in the blockchain industry?
Yes, definitely. Like I was saying earlier, it's if the drive of the regulations that governments are coming up with takes away the essence of the crypto industry, then it's going to kill that innovation. Because one of the things that crypto seeks to do, like I said, is first and foremost to return power to the people. And then secondly, to also create transparency. There's almost no crypto transaction that is not visible on the blockchain. You can see it in real time. So it's not the case where somebody can, not send you money and claim that they've sent you money, and then they send you a fake proof of that. On the blockchain, it appears instantaneously. So you see whether that value was sent or not. So you can check the source wallet if there was an outflow, and you can check the receiver if so. All those things eliminates a lot of foul play that is currently possible in the system. And that for me is one of the things that needs to be preserved, because no matter what rules you're coming up with, if you take away that essence, then there's no point. Why are we not just sticking with our traditional finance systems in that case? So I think one of the, and it comes down to the willingness of government to listen and learn, because you cannot regulate something you don't understand. So there's need to learn about the industry. What is it about? What is crypto all about? What is it trying to advance, in essence? And once that is very clearly understood, then you can see where the pain points are. What are the things that need to be regulated, and what are the things that need to pass? So, for example, in the US, the ETFs, we've had ETF applications since 2005 or thereabout, and it kept getting rejected until this year when, it seems that many of the companies who were applying for the ETFs, many of them big banks as well, were already had systems in place that made the SEC see that, okay, these guys have been doing a good job of trying to self-regulate. So why not give them a chance? And that for me is the way to go. Because if you don't trust, of course, you can't trust blindly, because I understand that it's a dangerous thing to trust blindly. But you also have to give credence to the fact that these people have been working on this thing for years. So you cannot wake up one day and decide, okay, I want to decide the rules here. No, you have to first understand the game, and then understand what rules will make it possible for the innovation to continue to grow while also protecting the general public. Because if your aim is to protect the public, then you should not take away the power from the people that crypto is trying to return to the people. So I think that for me is where the major, trust should be, to first understand, then look at where are the areas where we can tighten so that there is no abuse of the system. And then from there, I think things can only get better from there, in my honest opinion.
Okay, thank you for that, Professor Awe. Now, you mentioned that with the rise in the use of cryptocurrency trading all over the world, not just in Nigeria, people can create their own digital currency, and this can lead to a rise of a central bank of digital currencies, if I'm allowed to say that. So how will traditional finance and decentralized finance compete or coexist in a regulated environment?
Okay, so like I said before, there's almost no way for you to convert from your cryptocurrencies to fiat without needing the traditional banking system. So if I'm going to buy Bitcoin, for example, I need to take my Naira to an exchanger. So I'm going to have to transfer value through the traditional banking system. So that is, which means that both industries still need themselves as much as possible. So a lot of people saying, oh, crypto is going to replace banks. I disagree completely, because I don't think that's ever going to happen, because, they're solving different problems, essentially, really. And I believe that a lot of banks feel like crypto is going to. I remember when one of the major banks in the world said Bitcoin was just a speculative asset that should not have any value, and the CEO went on and on about why crypto is garbage. Today, they are one of the biggest players in the Bitcoin ETF space. It's it's ironic, but it just tells you that when people come to better understand what value something presents, there's a high chance that they're going to make adjustments to their. So I believe that crypto and the traditional system will coexist. And that is where, of course, government regulation comes in because you can then create it's just like, for example, banks and microfinance banks. They solve different problems, really, you know, but they are regulated by the same system, which ensures that one does not encroach on the other and, of course, destroy the work they're trying to do. The same way governments will need to create systems that makes it possible for crypto, and that's why you cannot just leave them in the shadows, because if you leave crypto transactions to happening peer to peer, because as it was designed to be, there's going to be a lot of things that will happen that government will not see. And it's going to encourage a lot of nefarious activities. Because if the guy you were talking about, who had crypto holdings, from many of his nefarious activities, they were only able to catch him because he was using a centralized exchange system. He was using one of the popular exchange systems. If he wasn't doing that, and those exchange systems are regulated, like I said before, many of them are self-regulated in preparation for, of course, the government's regulation in the future. And it was only possible to get that information because it was on a centralized and regulated exchange system. If he was only doing P2P, I can tell you nobody is getting close to him. Do you understand? And that's why I think what government needs to do with regulation and all of that is encourage more and more people to go on regulated platforms. Because that way, imagine if most of our transactions are done by cards. We don't have banks. We can't save money in banks. We don't have that. Imagine how the world would be like, where you want to go and buy a car, you carry like 5 Ghana must go. You can imagine the chaos that that is going to create. So you need the banks to and the traditional system to understand that this industry is trying to expand the pie. So banks have been saying, oh, we want to bank the unbanked. They've been saying that for years, but nothing has been banking any unbanked person. It's just nothing is changing. But crypto came and expanded the net. More people have used crypto than have bank accounts. So that's telling you that this solution can expand that net. It can bring more people into the system. And that for me is why government should be sensitive, not just reactive, because if they're reactive, they're going to kill and push that into the shadows. And I can tell you for free that that's going to be a very big loss.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Professor Awe. Now, before we round up, I just want to get your final words on this now. The long-term implications of cryptocurrencies on social inequality are yet to be understood. Now, how can regulations be crafted to promote financial inclusion in a crypto-integrated world?
Okay, so for me, I believe that crypto to a large extent has democratized access to financial services. There are people who have never seen a bank or interacted with a bank, but who have interacted with crypto and continue to have access to the global financial system through crypto. And that tells you that to a large extent, crypto has come to stay, and I believe that it's going to create better and better access to not just financial services, but also the global financial system as a whole. And I believe the government regulation, like I said before, should be geared towards, encouraging more and more people to move towards regulated systems so that there is visibility, because crypto generally was created to be peer-to-peer, which means bypassing third parties. So decentralized, I can go, instead of going through a bank to get to you, I can come to you directly, right? But the truth of the matter is that that in our world is not totally or is not completely practical because crypto cannot exist on its own. Why do we look at crypto prices? Is because it's paired against an existing system. One Bitcoin is one Bitcoin, but one Bitcoin on its own is nothing, it's useless, has no meaning until you say one Bitcoin is $70,000. Then the alarm bells go on. Then you see interest comes in. Why? Because it's paired to something that we already understand or have knowledge of. And that for me is where the drive of regulation should be to maintain that, the essence of crypto, to maintain that advantage, though I don't know how government will be comfortable with giving power back to the people. I think that's another conversation for another day. But the truth is that is how the regulation should. If regulation is trying to take away that essence, then I can tell you that we are going to lose the opportunity, especially as Africans. For me, I think crypto was made for Africa. There's so many people in the last 10 years who have hit financial freedom because of the exposure to the crypto industry. And I can tell you for free, if government, fully understand how this tool can empower more people, then I believe that they're going to be more drive towards that area. But I don't know if government really wants people to be more empowered. But I'm going to leave that for another time. But I believe that that is where the drive should be, so that there is not just because now the governments are coming and saying, okay, we want to regulate. It means that they're saying that we believe this thing is important, is legit. We can believe that this thing has value to deliver. And that for me is where, the game starts. But the idea of any regulation should be, if you're going to protect the people, then you need to let them keep their power, and that is what crypto has come to do. So for me, I believe that the government is going to, whatever rules they're bringing out must preserve that essence. And once that is done, I believe that there's so much value to be drawn out of the crypto industry, both now and in the future.
Professor Awe, it's been great talking to you for shedding more light on the cryptocurrency industry and also this current regulation that is spreading all over the world by most countries' financial security and financial commissions trying to regulate the cryptocurrency sector. So I've been talking to Professor Olaleye Awe, the founder of Alpha Training Labs, Nigeria's foremost crypto trading community. Thank you so much for joining us this morning on Market Insight to explain further what cryptocurrency entails and how it's a benefit to us, especially in this continent and in this country. We look forward to having you again on Market Insight. Thank you for joining us this morning.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so that was our discussion with Professor Olaleye Awe. So let's take a look at what the parallel market and the official market rates are saying this morning for today, the 3rd of April, 2024. So the dollar, these are the selling rates for the dollar, the pound sterling, and the euro. So at the official CBN rate, the dollar is selling for 1,200 naira, and in the parallel market is selling for 1,255 naira, and the pound sterling at the CBN rate is selling for 1,533 naira, and in the parallel market is selling for 1,750 naira, and the euro is selling for 1,316 naira in the official market, and in the parallel market is selling for 1,360 naira. So these are our official dollar and pound sterling and euro rates this morning, and also at the black market rates this morning. So thank you very much for joining us today on Market Insights as we discuss cryptocurrency regulations and its impacts on the global economy. I am your host, Lovina Emma. Stay tuned to SOUQ News Updates after this.